Imagine a prestigious academy where a charismatic black male teacher manipulates the lives of 3 white high school girls. Their twisted relationships lead to a shocking murder that will leave you on the edge of your seat. This isn't just a story, it's a thrilling journey into the dark secrets hidden behind the walls of Beacon Hill Academy. Subscribe now if you want more stories that will stay with you long after you've heard them. Don't miss out on the next gripping tale. In the bustling city of Boston, Massachusetts, known for its rich history and vibrant intellectual scene, there stood the prestigious Beacon Hill Academy, a beacon of education in the heart of the affluent Beacon Hill neighborhood. Here, 34-year-old black history teacher Malik Washington dedicated his days to shaping young minds. Malik was known for his stern yet fair demeanor, and his students held a mix of respect and apprehension for him. His sharp wit and intellectual prowess made him a formidable presence in the classroom. However, Malik harbored a darker side. He was a manipulative playboy, always seeking the thrill of conquest and the satisfaction of his ego. At home, Malik's life was quieter. He lived in a modest townhouse on a serene street in the nearby neighborhood of Back Bay, far from the city's energy. His wife, Lisa, a white woman, was a long-haul truck driver, often away for extended periods. Their marriage, once passionate, had grown distant over the years, worn down by long absences and the monotony of daily life. Malik found himself increasingly isolated and unfulfilled, trapped in a life that had lost its spark. His psychological manipulation and playboy tendencies were a way for him to feel powerful and in control, compensating for the emptiness he felt in his personal life. Malik's targets were always carefully chosen: senior students, aged 18 and 19, who were vulnerable and impressionable. He saw himself as a predator, always on the lookout for the next conquest. His first target at Beacon Hill Academy was Emily Carter, an 18-year-old senior with a natural charisma that made her popular among her peers. Emily was a star on the debate team, intelligent and articulate, with a smile that could light up a room. However, beneath her confident exterior, Emily was struggling with the pressures of her final year and the expectations placed upon her. Malik, always eager to exploit a weakness, offered to tutor her after school, seeing an opportunity to get closer to her. Their sessions started innocently, focused on catching up with schoolwork and preparing for exams. But as they spent more time together, Malik began to notice things about Emily that he could exploit: her need for validation, her desire for attention, and her vulnerabilities. There was an electricity between them, an unspoken attraction that Malik fostered and manipulated. One evening, after an especially intense study session, Emily leaned in closer than usual. Her breath was warm against his skin as she whispered something that made him laugh, a deep, genuine laugh that he hadn't heard from himself in a long time. Without thinking, Malik reached out and touched her arm, and in that moment, something shifted. Emily turned towards him, her eyes dark with desire, and, before he could stop himself, their lips met in a kiss that was as passionate as it was forbidden. That kiss was the beginning of an affair that would consume them both. Malik knew it was wrong, knew that he was crossing a line that could never be uncrossed, but the thrill of the conquest was too intoxicating to resist. Emily made him feel alive again, made him feel wanted in a way that Lisa hadn't in years. They began meeting in secret, stealing moments in empty classrooms, in Malik's car, in the dark corners of the school where no one would think to look. But Emily wasn't the only one who caught Malik's eye. Sophia Davis, a 19-year-old senior and star volleyball player, had always had a thing for her history teacher. She was confident and ambitious, with a charm that made her irresistible to most of her peers. But Malik wasn't like the other teachers. He was older, more sophisticated, and Sophia was determined to get his attention. She started staying after class, asking for help with assignments she didn't really need help with, finding excuses to be near him. At first, Malik brushed off Sophia's advances. He was already involved with Emily, and the last thing he needed was another complication. But Sophia was persistent, and eventually Malik found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't expected. she was different from Emily, bolder, more aggressive, and with a confidence that was impossible to resist. Malik saw in Sophia another opportunity for conquest, another chance to feed his ego and assert his power. One day, after a particularly heated argument with Emily, Malik found himself alone with Sophia in his classroom. The tension between them was palpable, and when Sophia leaned in to kiss him, Malik didn't pull away. Their affair was different from the one he had with Emily. With Sophia, it was all about the physical, about satisfying a need that had been building inside him for years. They were reckless, meeting in risky places, pushing the boundaries of what was safe. Malik knew he was playing with fire, but the thrill was addictive. Sophia made him feel powerful, like he was in control for the first time in years. But the fire was far from out. Malik found himself drawn to yet another student, Olivia Johnson. Olivia was 18, a senior like Emily, but she couldn't have been more different. Quiet, studious, and thoughtful, Olivia was the type of student who stayed after class to discuss history and philosophy, not to flirt with her teacher. She had a depth that intrigued Malik, a sensitivity that reminded him of the dreams and ambitions he'd once had before life had worn him down. Olivia had always admired Malik from a distance. He was everything she aspired to be, intelligent, cultured, and strong-willed. When she started spending time alone with him after school, discussing books and ideas, she felt a connection that was deeper than anything she'd experienced with her peers. Malik, too, found himself opening up to Olivia in ways he hadn't with Emily or Sophia. Their conversations were intense, filled with shared insights and personal confessions, and it wasn't long before their relationship crossed the line from intellectual to intimate. Their first kiss was tender, almost hesitant, a stark contrast to the fiery passion he shared with Emily and Sophia. With Olivia, it was about more than just the physical. It was about the emotional connection, the sense of being understood. Malik knew that he was in too deep, but he couldn't bring himself to stop. He craved the attention, the excitement, the feeling of being desired by these young women. But as the weeks went on, the pressure of maintaining 3 secret affairs began to weigh heavily on Malik. He was constantly on edge, terrified that someone would find out, that his career, his marriage, his life would be destroyed. The thrill of the affair was starting to wear off, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The girls, too, were becoming more demanding, more possessive, each one wanting more of his time, his attention. Malik had thought he could control the situation, that he could keep his secrets hidden, but he was about to learn that the web he had spun was far more tangled than he had ever imagined. The consequences of his actions were closing in, and the price he would pay for his forbidden thrill was far greater than he could have ever anticipated. The autumn months in Boston brought a chill to the air, but inside the walls of Beacon Hill Academy, the tension was heating up. Malik Washington found himself increasingly entangled in the web he had woven as his relationships with Emily, Sophia, and Olivia became more intense and more dangerous. What had started as a thrilling escape from his mundane life was now spiraling out of control, and Malik was beginning to feel the pressure. Emily was the first to notice that something was wrong. What had once been a passionate, exhilarating affair was starting to feel different. Malik was distracted, distant even, and their stolen moments were becoming fewer and farther between. Emily was no fool. She could tell that something or someone else was occupying his time. Her suspicion grew, and with it, a dark jealousy that she couldn't shake. Sophia, too, was becoming restless. She thrived on attention and wasn't used to being ignored. When Malik began cancelling their meetings, coming up with excuses that didn't quite add up, Sophia's easygoing demeanor turned sour. She started to push back, showing up unannounced, demanding his time and his affection. She wasn't used to sharing, and the idea that Malik might be seeing someone else lit a fire of anger inside her. Olivia, on the other hand, was more subtle in her unease. She noticed the changes in Malik, the way he seemed preoccupied even when they were alone, the way his mind seemed to wander during their conversations. Olivia was sensitive, thoughtful, and deeply in love with Malik in a way that the other girls weren't. She could sense that something was wrong, but she didn't know what. All she knew was that the man she adored was slipping away from her, and the thought of losing him filled her with dread. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between the girls grew unbearable. They were like predators, circling the same prey, each one vying for Malik's attention, each one determined to be the one he chose. Emily, driven by jealousy, began to watch Malik more closely. She followed him after school, noticed the way he lingered in the halls, the way he seemed to have secret meetings behind closed doors. It didn't take long for her to realize that she wasn't the only one. One evening, after a particularly tense day, Emily decided to confront Malik. She waited for him in the parking lot after school, her heart pounding in her chest, her mind racing with thoughts of betrayal. When Malik finally emerged, she stepped out of the shadows, her face a mask of controlled anger.
"Who is it?"
she demanded, her voice low but intense.
"Who else are you seeing?"
Malik froze, his heart stopping for a moment as he realized that the carefully constructed facade he had built was beginning to crumble. He tried to play it off, to laugh it away, but Emily wasn't having it. She stepped closer, her body tense, her eyes burning with a jealousy that Malik hadn't seen before.
"Don't lie to me, Malik,"
she warned, her voice shaking with emotion.
"I know you're with someone else. I want to know who."
Malik hesitated, caught between the truth and the lies he had been telling for months. Before he could respond, Sophia appeared, her usual swagger replaced by a simmering anger. She had seen them together, had noticed the way Emily seemed to have a special hold over Malik, and she wasn't about to let it slide.
"What's going on here?"
Sophia asked, her tone accusatory as she approached the two. She looked from Emily to Malik, her expression darkening as the pieces began to fall into place. Malik turned to face Sophia, his fist clenching at his sides.
"You tell me."
He spat. Before Sophia could answer, Olivia appeared at the edge of the parking lot, having seen the other two girls from a distance. Unlike Emily and Sophia, Olivia had never been confrontational, but the sight of the two girls with Malik, the realization that her worst fears were coming true, pushed her to act in a way she never had before.
"What are you doing?"
Olivia's voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it that Malik hadn't heard before. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on Malik, searching for answers, for some kind of reassurance that what she was seeing wasn't real. Malik was trapped. The three girls he had been juggling were now standing before him, their anger, jealousy, and betrayal written across their faces. There was no way out, no way to defuse the situation. The truth was out, and the consequences were about to come crashing down. Emily, her emotions boiling over, took a step toward Malik.
"How could you do this?"
she demanded, her voice cracking with pain.
"I thought I meant something to you."
Sophia, never wanting to back down from a fight, shoved Emily back.
"You're not the only one he's been playing, gal."
She snarled.
"But I'm not about to let him make a fool out of me."
Olivia, standing on the edge of the confrontation, felt a surge of emotion she couldn't control. She had always been the quiet one, the thinker, the one who avoided conflict. But seeing Malik in the middle of this, seeing the way he was being pulled in different directions by Emily and Sophia, something inside her snapped.
"You're both wrong,"
Olivia said, her voice trembling with intensity.
"He's not some game you can win. He's a person, and you're tearing him apart."
The situation escalated quickly. Sophia, never wanting to back down, swung at Emily, her fist connecting with a sickening thud. Emily stumbled back, but quickly retaliated, launching herself at Sophia with a fury that had been building for weeks. The two girls were soon locked in a brutal fight, fists flying, as Malik watched in horror, unable to stop what he had set in motion. Olivia, desperate to protect Malik, tried to pull Sophia away, but in the chaos, she was dragged into the fray. The three girls were now enemies, driven to violence by their love for the same man. Malik's attempts to intervene were futile. The girls were too far gone, too consumed by their anger and jealousy to listen to reason. As the fight raged on, the situation grew more dangerous. In the heat of the moment, Sophia grabbed a loose metal pipe from the ground, swinging it wildly at Emily. The blow landed with a sickening crack, and Emily went down hard, blood pouring from a gash on her head. Malik screamed, rushing to Emily's side, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Seeing Emily on the ground, motionless, Olivia lost control. She lunged at Sophia, tackling her to the ground, her fist pounding into Sophia's face with a fury that surprised even herself. Sophia fought back, but she was dazed, the fight quickly slipping out of her control. In the chaos, Malik scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. He had to do something, had to stop this before it got even worse. But as he looked around, he realized with a sickening dread that there was no stopping it. The girls were out of control, and he was powerless to stop the violence that he had unwittingly set in motion. Olivia, in a blind rage, reached for the metal pipe that Sophia had used to strike Emily. She swung it at Sophia, the force of the blow knocking her unconscious. The fight was over, but the damage was irreparable. Sophia lay on the ground, blood pooling beneath her, while Emily remained motionless, her breathing shallow and labored. Malik stood frozen, his mind unable to process what had just happened. The girls he had cared for, had loved in his own way, were now lying broken and bloodied at his feet. The reality of the situation began to sink in, the gravity of what he had done crushing him under its weight. The affair, the secrets, the lies. It had all led to this moment, a moment that would change all their lives forever. The sound of sirens in the distance brought Malik back to reality. Someone had called the police, and they were on their way. Panic set in as Malik realized the enormity of what had just happened. There was no way to cover this up, no way to make it right. The truth was out, and there would be consequences. Consequences he had never imagined when he first crossed that line with Emily. When the police arrived, the scene was one of chaos. Sophia was taken away in an ambulance, still unconscious, while Emily was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Olivia, dazed and covered in blood, was handcuffed and placed in the back of a police car. Malik was questioned on the spot, his mind numb as he tried to explain the unexplainable. The media quickly descended on the school, turning the story into a national sensation. The scandal rocked the Boston community, and Malik's life was torn apart. His marriage, his career, his reputation, everything was destroyed in an instant. He was suspended from his job pending an investigation, and soon the full extent of his relationships with Emily, Sophia, and Olivia came to light. As the story spread, Boston became a hotbed of gossip and speculation. Local news channels set up camp outside Malik's once quiet townhouse in Back Bay, capturing every moment of his descent from a respected teacher to a public disgrace. Neighbors who had once admired him for his dedication to his students now whispered about his scandalous behavior. Malik found himself isolated, not just from his community, but from his own family. His wife, Lisa, returned to find their life in ruins. The betrayal cut deeply, and despite her initial shock, she was unable to forgive. She filed for divorce, seeking to distance herself from the chaos that had engulfed their lives. Lisa moved away from Boston, leaving Malik behind in a place that now felt like a prison. Without his marriage and his career, Malik was left to face the consequences of his actions alone. The weight of his decisions began to crush him. Once a proud and assertive man, he now struggled with overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame. He found it difficult to face himself in the mirror, let alone the world outside. The emotional toll of the scandal led him into a spiral of depression, where he questioned every choice he had made and the life he had thrown away. The girls involved in the scandal each dealt with their trauma in their own ways. Emily, critically injured from the confrontation, faced a long and painful recovery. The once promising student was now left with physical scars and emotional wounds that haunted her daily. Her dreams of a bright future were dashed, and she struggled to find a new direction in life, grappling with the sense of betrayal and the violence she had experienced. Sophia was left with her own set of challenges. Her injuries were severe, and the incident had a lasting impact on her mental health. The experience made her withdrawn and bitter. She faced the public's judgment and the legal consequences of her actions, all while trying to deal with the trauma of what had happened. Sophia's confidence was shattered, and she struggled to rebuild her sense of self amidst the chaos. Olivia, too, was deeply affected. She was sent to juvenile detention for her role in the incident. The experience was harsh, and the time spent there forced her to confront the gravity of her actions. Although she had acted out of what she believed was defense, The reality of the violence she had participated in weighed heavily on her. Olivia tried to use her time in detention to reflect and to work on personal growth, but the path to redemption was long and uncertain. The aftermath of the scandal left a deep scar on the Boston community. Beacon Hill Academy, once a place of learning and growth, now stood as a symbol of betrayal and failure. The school administration faced harsh criticism for their oversight and the lack of preventive measures. Efforts were made to rebuild trust within the community, but the damage had been done. The focus shifted to ensuring the safety and well-being of students and addressing the systemic issues that had allowed the situation to unfold. The community, while scarred, began to heal, with support systems put in place to address the emotional and psychological impact on everyone involved. But that wasn't enough for what happened next. The violence that had erupted between Emily, Sophia, and Olivia had left deep wounds, both physical and emotional. As the girls recovered from their injuries, the bitterness and resentment between them grew. Each blamed the others for the pain and suffering they had endured, and the tension simmered just beneath the surface. One fateful night, months after the initial confrontation, the three girls found themselves together again, this time in a secluded park on the outskirts of Boston. They had come to confront each other, to hash out their differences and find some semblance of closure. But the meeting quickly turned heated as old wounds were reopened and accusations flew. Emily, still bearing the scars from Sophia's attack, was the first to lash out.
You ruined my life.
She spat at Sophia, her voice trembling with anger.
I'll never forgive you for what you did to me.
Sophia, her confidence shattered but her pride still intact, sneered back at Emily.
You're just as much to blame as I am,
she retorted.
You were the one who couldn't keep Malik to yourself. You had to go and share him with the rest of us.
Olivia, who had been quietly listening to the exchange, finally spoke up.
Both of you are missing the point,
she said, her voice soft but firm.
Malik was the one who betrayed us all. He was the one who played with our hearts and our minds. We were just pawns in his game.
The girls fell silent, the weight of Olivia's words sinking in. They realized that their anger and bitterness were misplaced, that the true source of their pain and suffering was Malik. He was the one who had manipulated them, who had played with their emotions and their lives. Emily, her voice barely above a whisper, broke the silence.
Olivia's right,
she said, her eyes filled with a newfound determination.
Malik is the one who ruined our lives. He's the one who deserves to pay for what he did to us.
Sophia nodded in agreement, her expression serious.
But how do we make him pay? He's already suspended, and the scandal has ruined his life. What more can we do to him?
Olivia thought for a moment, her mind racing with possibilities. Then a chilling smile spread across her face.
We kill him,
she said, her voice steady and cold.
We frame it as a suicide, make it look like he couldn't live with the guilt of what he did to us. No one will suspect a thing.
Emily and Sophia exchanged a look, a silent agreement passing between them. They knew that Olivia was right, that the only way to truly make Malik pay for his actions was to end his life. They began to plot, their minds working together to come up with a foolproof plan. They would lure Malik to the park, using the promise of a secret meeting to discuss their relationships and the scandal. Once he was there, they would overpower him, using their combined strength to subdue him. They would then stage the scene to make it look like a suicide, leaving a note behind to make it seem like Malik had taken his own life out of guilt and shame. The girls worked quickly, their plan coming together with a chilling efficiency. They sent Malik a message using a burner phone to avoid detection and arranged to meet him in the park late at night. Malik, desperate to make amends and clear his name, agreed to the meeting, unaware of the sinister plot that awaited him. As Malik walked through the park, his mind was filled with thoughts of redemption and forgiveness. He was determined to make things right, to find a way to heal the wounds he had caused and move on with his life. But as he approached the designated meeting spot, he realized that something was wrong. The park was too quiet, too still, and a sense of unease washed over him. Before he could react, the girls emerged from the shadows, their faces set in determined expressions. Malik tried to run, but it was too late. The girls were on him, their combined strength overpowering him as they dragged him to the ground. He struggled and fought, but it was no use. The girls were driven by a cold, calculated rage, and they were not about to let him go. As Malik lay on the ground, helpless and defeated, the girls set to work staging the scene. They carefully positioned his body, making it look like he had hanged himself from a nearby tree. They placed a noose around his neck, securing it tightly to ensure that he could not escape. Then they stepped back, admiring their handiwork, with a chilling satisfaction. But as they turned to leave, they heard a noise, a soft rustling in the bushes nearby. They froze, their hearts pounding in their chests as they realized that someone had been watching them, that their secret was no longer safe. A figure emerged from the shadows, a young girl with a shocked expression on her face. She had been walking through the park, taking a shortcut home, when she had stumbled upon the girls and their sinister plot. She had watched in horror as they had attacked Malik, as they had staged his suicide, and now she stood frozen, unsure of what to do. But the girl was not about to go down without a fight. She turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest as she fled through the park, the girls hot on her heels. She could hear their footsteps behind her, could feel their breath on her neck as they gained on her, but she did not stop. She knew that her life depended on it, that if she slowed down even for a moment, they would catch her and silence her forever. As she ran, she pulled out her phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. She quickly explained the situation to the operator, her voice breathless and terrified as she begged for help. The operator assured her that help was on the way, that the police were already en route to the park, but the girl knew that she could not wait. She had to keep running, had to keep fighting to stay alive. The girls chased her through the park, their determination never wavering as they pursued their prey. But as they rounded a corner, they saw the flashing lights of police cars in the distance, heard the sound of sirens growing louder and louder as the authorities approached. They realized that it was too late, that their secret was out, and that they would not be able to silence the girl after all. The police arrived on the scene, their cars screeching to a halt as they surrounded the girls, their guns drawn and ready. The girls were handcuffed and placed in the back of separate police cars, their faces set in expressions of shock and disbelief as they were taken into custody. The park was cordoned off, becoming a crime scene as investigators worked to piece together the events of the night. Malik's body was taken away, his death ruled a homicide rather than a suicide. The girls were questioned, their statements recorded as evidence against them, and it wasn't long before the truth came out. The media, yet again, descended on the story, turning it into a national sensation as the details of the girls' plot and Malik's murder were revealed to the public. The scandal rocked the Back Bay Boston community to its core, and the lives of everyone involved were forever changed. Emily, Sophia, and Olivia were charged with Malik's murder, their trial becoming a media circus as the prosecution presented their case against the girls. The evidence was overwhelming, and the girls were ultimately found guilty of Malik's murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The girl who had witnessed the crime became a local hero, her bravery and quick thinking credited with saving her own life and bringing the girls to justice. She struggled to come to terms with the events of that night, haunted by the memories of what she had seen and the role she had played in bringing the girls to justice. But with the support of her family and community, she was able to find a way to heal and move on with her life. In the end, the murder of Malik Washington served as a grim reminder of the destructive power of manipulation, betrayal, and the consequences of one's actions. The lives of Malik, Emily, Sophia, and Olivia were forever entwined in a web of deceit and violence, a stark testament to the fragility of trust and the enduring impact of choices driven by desire, desperation, and the need for control. The echoes of that fateful night would linger long after the headlines faded, a chilling cautionary tale etched in the annals of Boston's history.